My children missed my 69th birthday. Not a call, not a text, nothing. I spent that day sitting in my small living room, staring at the cake I had bought for myself, feeling how every passing hour was another stab in my heart as a mother. But that wasn't the worst part. The worst part came 2 years later, when rumors about my $10 million inheritance started circulating in the family. That was when my phone rang. It was Richard, my oldest son. The message read, "Family lunch at noon, important conversation," and I showed up. But not alone. I arrived with someone they never expected to see, someone who carried the truth in a manila folder. And that truth was about to shatter their perfect lives. If you are watching this, subscribe and tell me where you are from, because this story is going to make your blood boil. My name is Eleanor. I am 71 years old, and for 50 years of my life I gave everything for my children. Everything. When Richard was born, I was 21 and had just married the love of my life, a hardworking man who dreamed of giving us a bright future. 2 years later came Jessica, my little princess with the big eyes. I thought we were building a united family, full of love. But life had other plans. When Richard was barely 8 and Jessica was 6, my husband died in a car accident. A rainy night, a semi-truck, and it was all over. I was left alone, a widow with 2 small children and not a penny in the bank. Do you know what it is like to wake up every day knowing that 2 little people depend completely on you? Knowing that if you fail, they don't eat? I worked 3 jobs. In the mornings, I cleaned office buildings. In the afternoons, I sewed clothes at a garment factory. And at night, when my babies were asleep, I baked bread and pies to sell at the farmer's market on weekends. My hands became covered in calluses. My back grew crooked from carrying so much weight. But never, not once, was there a lack of food on the table. They never lacked school supplies. They never lacked a roof over their heads. I gave up everything. My youth. The possibility of falling in love again. There were good men who approached me, who wanted to get to know me, who looked at me with tenderness at the bakery or at church. But I always said no, because my children were my priority, because I didn't want any stranger to hurt them, because I believed, naively, that they would value my sacrifice, that when they grew up, when they had their own lives, they would look at me with gratitude and say, "Mom, thanks for everything you did for us." But it wasn't like that. Richard grew up and became a cold man. He got his business degree with the money I saved by selling every piece of my soul. He graduated, got a job at a major corporation, and suddenly, he didn't have time for his mother anymore. He married Ashley, a woman from a wealthy family who looked at me like I was trash from day one. At the wedding, Ashley didn't even let me sit at the head table. They put me in a corner, near the kitchen doors, as if I were a second-class guest, and Richard said nothing. My own son saw me there, humiliated, and looked down. Jessica was worse. My little girl, my princess, turned into a vain and cruel woman. She studied fashion marketing and got a job at a luxury magazine. She started to be ashamed of me, of my wrinkled hands, of my simple clothes, of my humble way of speaking. Once, she invited me to an event for her work. I was so excited. I wore my best dress, an olive green one I had bought at a thrift store. When I arrived, Jessica looked me up and down and whispered, "Mom, please don't talk too much. My colleagues are important people." I stayed quiet all night, feeling invisibly. The years passed. They built their perfect lives. Richard bought a mansion in the suburbs, with a huge garden and a pool. Jessica moved into a penthouse downtown with a view of the skyline. And I kept living in my small 2-bedroom house, in the same working-class neighborhood where I raised them. I didn't care. I didn't need luxuries. I just needed my children to visit me, to call me, to make me feel like I still mattered. But the visits became increasingly rare. The calls were reduced to cold texts on Christmas and New Year's. And when I turned 69, 2 years ago, I hit rock bottom. I prepared my house. I baked a chocolate cake, Richard's favorite since he was a boy. I bought juice and snacks. I put on soft music. I fixed my hair. I put on a necklace my husband had given me decades ago. And I waited. I waited from 10 in the morning. I looked at the clock every 5 minutes. 11. Noon. 1 in the afternoon. 2. 3. The sun started to go down, and nobody came. Nobody called. I checked my phone 1,000 times, thinking maybe it was broken. But no, it was working perfectly. Simply put, my children decided that my birthday wasn't important. I cried that night like I hadn't cried since my husband's death. I sat on my kitchen floor, with the untouched cake in front of me, and wondered where I had failed as a mother. What did I do wrong? Did I love them too much? Did I spoil them without realizing it? Did I sacrifice so much that I lost their respect? 2 years later, everything changed. The rumors started. Nobody knows exactly how the rumors started. Maybe it was a distant cousin who heard something at a family gathering. Maybe it was a bank employee who talked too much. Or maybe it was destiny, setting the stage for justice. The fact is, suddenly, the whole family was talking about something I myself didn't know about. An inheritance of $10 million that my late husband had supposedly left, and that now belonged to me. At first, I didn't give it any importance. I thought it was baseless gossip. My husband had died more than 40 years ago. If he had left money, I would have known, right? But the calls started coming. Cousins who hadn't spoken to me for 20 years suddenly wanted to visit. Nephews who never remembered my birthday were now sending me texts asking how my health was. And then, after 2 years of almost total silence, my phone buzzed with a message from Richard. "Mom, we need to talk. Family lunch tomorrow at noon at my house. Important conversation, don't miss it." I read that message over and over again. It didn't say "I miss you, Mom." It didn't say "sorry for not being around." Just a cold and direct order. Important conversation. I knew perfectly well what it was about. It wasn't a reconciliation. It wasn't filial love waking up after years of being asleep. It was money. It was always money. That night I couldn't sleep. I lay awake in my bed, staring at the cracked ceiling of my bedroom, feeling rage and sadness fighting inside my chest. Part of me wanted to go to that lunch and scream at them everything I had kept silent for years. Tell them they were ungrateful, that they had abandoned me, that they had made me feel invisible and despicable. But another part of me, that foolish and hopeful part that still beat in some corner of my heart, wanted to believe that maybe, just maybe, this was an opportunity to rebuild our relationship. At 9 in the morning the next day, my doorbell rang. I opened the door and found an older man, about 75 years old, dressed in an impeccable gray suit. He had perfectly combed white hair and eyes that conveyed a mixture of wisdom and sadness. He extended his hand. "Eleanor?" he asked with a firm but kind voice. "Yes, that's me. Who are you?" "My name is Arthur. I was a lawyer and a close friend of your husband. I need to speak with you urgently about a matter that has been waiting for more than 40 years. I felt the floor move beneath my feet. I invited him in. I poured him coffee, and for the next 2 hours, that man completely changed my life. Arthur opened a worn manila folder and took out documents yellowed by time. He explained to me that my husband, weeks before he died, had gone to see him with a worry that tormented him. My husband was a man of foresight. He worked at an import company and had made smart investments that few knew about. But the most important thing was that he had noticed something in our children, even when they were little. He had seen signs of selfishness, of coldness, and he was terrified to think that when he was gone, they would abandon me. "Your husband told me verbatim," Arthur recounted with a breaking voice. "Arthur, if something happens to me, protect Eleanor, because I have a feeling our children are not going to take care of her as she deserves." And he was right. Arthur showed me the will. A legal document, sealed and certified, which established that my husband had left investments with an initial value of $3 million, which over the years, and with compound interest, had grown to reach $15 million. 15, not 10, as the rumors said, and everything was in my name. But there was a special condition, a clause my husband had included because he knew human nature better than anyone. The clause said the following: the money could only be touched after a test was fulfilled. For 1 full year, without them knowing of the existence of this will, the children had to demonstrate genuine love toward their mother. Regular visits, calls, attention, care. If they passed the test, they would receive a share of the inheritance. If they failed, all the money would remain under my absolute control to do with as I pleased. "And my children know something about this?" I asked with a trembling voice. "They know nothing official," Arthur replied. "But someone leaked partial information, rumors. And as was to be expected, now they come running." He showed me something else. A small metal box. Inside was a USB drive. Your husband recorded videos, Arthur explained. Messages for you, instructions. And he also recorded conversations he had with the kids when they were little, moments that worried him. He wanted you to have proof of everything. I watched the videos that morning. I saw my husband, young and handsome, sitting in front of an old camera, speaking to me from the past. Tears ran down my face as I listened to his voice, telling me how much he loved me. Telling me that if I was watching this, it meant he was no longer there, but that his love for me transcended death. He asked me to be strong, to not let anyone step on me, to use that money to live the life I always deserved and never had. I also watched the other recordings. Richard, at 10 years old, telling his father, "When I grow up and have money, I'm not going to spend a single cent on unnecessary things." My husband had asked him, "And taking care of your mom is unnecessary?" Richard had shrugged his shoulders. Jessica, at 8 years old, saying that when she was famous, she wasn't going to live in ugly houses like this one, and that she was going to surround herself only with elegant people. They were children, yes, but those seeds of contempt were already planted. Arthur looked at me seriously. "Eleanor, the trial year ended 6 months ago. Your children failed completely. They didn't visit you. They didn't call you. They ignored you entirely until the rumors of the money started. Now they come like vultures. But you have all the power. The question is, what are you going to do with it?" I took a deep breath. I felt something I hadn't felt in decades. Control. Power. Dignity. "I am going to go to that lunch," I said with a firm voice. "But I am going with you, and we are going to take this folder, because the time has come for my children to understand who their mother really is." Arthur smiled. A sad smile, but full of approval. At 11:30 in the morning, I put on my best dress, a beige one I saved for special occasions. I applied light makeup, I combed my hair with care, and I left my house accompanied by Arthur. He drove an elegant black car. On the way to Richard's mansion, we went over the plan. I wasn't going to reveal everything immediately. First, I would let them talk. I would let them show their true faces. And then, when they thought they had me controlled, I would play my cards. When we arrived in front of the huge electric gate of Richard's house, my heart was beating hard. The gate opened slowly. The driveway was lined with perfectly pruned trees. Richard's mansion was immense, with white columns and huge windows reflecting the midday Sunday. There were 3 luxury cars parked in front of the main door. I lived in a house where the paint was peeling off, and my son lived like a king who had forgotten who paid for his first shoes. Arthur parked the car. Before getting out, he put his hand on mine. "Remember, Eleanor, you have control, no matter what they say or do. The truth is on your side." I nodded. I took a deep breath, and I got out of the car with my head held high. I rang the doorbell. I heard hurried steps on the other side. The door opened, and there was Richard, my son, 45 years old. Expensive suit. A watch that probably cost more than my entire wardrobe combined. He looked at me with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Mom, glad you made it," he said. But his gaze immediately shifted toward Arthur. "And who is he?" "This is Arthur, your father's lawyer. He came with me." I saw Richard's smile freeze. I saw his eyes narrow with suspicion, but he recovered his composure quickly. "Ah, sure. Welcome. Come in, come in." We entered a gigantic living room, marble floors, furniture that looked like it came out of a design magazine. A crystal chandelier hung from the ceiling, and there, sitting on a cream-colored sofa, as if she were a queen on her throne, was Ashley, my daughter-in-law. Dressed in designer clothes, perfect makeup, long nails painted red, she looked me up and down with that disdain I knew so well. "Eleanor," she said with a cold voice. She didn't even get up to greet me. "We thought you would come alone." "You thought wrong," I replied firmly. Something in me had changed since this morning. I was no longer the submissive old lady who swallowed humiliations in silence. At that moment, Jessica appeared. My daughter. She was wearing a very expensive ivory dress and sky-high heels. Her hair was styled in perfect waves. She approached and gave me a kiss on the cheek, but it was a mechanical, empty gesture. "Mom, it's been so long," she said with a rehearsed smile. "You look good." "You look good" was her way of saying you look old and outdated, but I'm going to fake politeness. We sat around a huge dining table. There was fancy food served on fine plates, salads with ingredients I couldn't even pronounce, expensive wine, crystal glasses. Everything was designed to impress, to show power, to remind me of my place. Richard cleared his throat and took the floor. "Well, Mom, you must be wondering why we asked you to come today." "I have an idea," I replied calmly. Ashley intervened, with that controlled and manipulative voice she practiced so much. "Eleanor, we have been thinking about you a lot lately, about how you have lived all these years, in that little house of yours, so modest, and we are worried about your well-being." I had to hold back a bitter laugh. 2 years without calling me, and now they were worried about my well-being. Jessica continued the rehearsed speech. "Mom, we know Dad passed away a long time ago, and we know you worked very hard to raise us. We have always admired you for that." Lie. They had never expressed admiration, only shame. Richard leaned forward, clasping his hands as if he were about to make a business proposal. "The point is this, Mom. Certain rumors have reached us about a possible inheritance from Dad, money that remained in bank accounts or investments that nobody touched during all these years. There it was. The real reason for this meeting. It wasn't love, it wasn't concern, it was money." "Rumors?" I asked, playing innocent. "What kind of rumors?" Ashley lost her patience a little. Her mask of politeness began to crack. "Don't play dumb, Eleanor. Everyone in the family is talking about $10 million. $10 million that supposedly belongs to you." Arthur, who until that moment had remained silent, spoke for the first time. "Interesting that you mention that exact figure. How did you obtain that information?" The three of them tensed visibly. Richard tried to compose himself. "They are just rumors, as I said. But if there is any truth to them, we believe Mom needs advice. She needs help handling that kind of money. At her age, it is easy for someone to take advantage of her." There was the play. They wanted to declare me incompetent. They wanted to take control of my money with the excuse of protecting me. Jessica put her hand on mine. A soft hand, without calluses, that had never scrubbed a floor or washed other people's clothes. "Mom, we just want to take care of you. That's why we think the best thing would be for that money, if it exists, to be managed jointly, as a family. Richard has experience in finance. I know people who can make smart investments. We could ensure that money lasts you the rest of your life. And ensure you get a nice cut," I thought, but I didn't say it out loud. "And what do I get out of that?" I asked directly. The question caught them off guard. They expected a submissive old lady, not someone who questioned. Richard recovered control of the conversation. "You would gain security, Mom. Peace of mind. And, of course, we would make sure you lived better. We could move you to a more comfortable place. A very nice assisted living facility for seniors, with gardens and nurses, a place where you would be taken care of. A facility. They wanted to lock me up in a home while they spent my money," Ashley added with fake sweetness. "And we would visit much more often. We would be a united family again." Arthur coughed slightly. I knew he was holding back from exploding. But we had a plan. It wasn't time to reveal the cards yet. "Sounds interesting," I said slowly, "but I have some questions. First, if you are so worried about my well-being, why didn't you call me on my birthday 2 years ago? I turned 69, and none of you showed up." The silence became dense, uncomfortable. Richard shifted restlessly in his chair. "Mom, we were busy. We had work commitments. You know how it is. Too busy for a 2-minute call. I understand." Jessica tried to change the subject quickly. "That was a long time ago, Mom. We are here now, aren't we? We want to make up for lost time." "Make up?" The words came out of my mouth sharper than I intended. "With money that you believe belongs to me." Ashley dropped the mask completely. Her voice turned hard. "Look, Eleanor, let's be realistic. You know nothing about finances. You never handled more than a few dollars in your life. If there really is an inheritance, you are going to need help, and we are your family. Or do you prefer strangers to take advantage of you?" Arthur intervened again, his voice calm but firm. "How curious that you assume Mrs. Eleanor needs help. She raised 2 children alone. She worked 3 jobs simultaneously. She managed a tight budget for decades without borrowing a cent. I would say she has more experience in finances than many." Richard looked at him with hostility. And who exactly are you? What interest do you have in this? Arthur leaned back in his chair with absolute tranquility. He didn't flinch at Richard's hostility. I am the executor of your father's will, and my interest is to fulfill the last wish of a man who was my friend for 30 years. A man who, unfortunately, was right about many things. What do you mean by that? Asked Jessica, her voice rising in pitch. He means, I intervened, feeling strength growing inside me, that your father knew you better than you think. I saw the three of them exchange nervous glances. The atmosphere in that elegant room became electric, tense. Ashley stood up abruptly. This is ridiculous. We came to have a private family conversation, and this man is interfering. This man, I said with a firm voice, has legal information that you need to hear. So either you sit down and listen, or I leave right now and you never hear from me or any money ever again. It was the first time in decades that I spoke to them with authority. The first time I didn't let myself be trampled. And it worked. Ashley sat back down, although with her jaw clenched in rage. Richard and Jessica looked at me, as if they didn't recognize me. Richard tried to regain control, with a softer, more manipulative tone. Mom, forgive us. We didn't mean to upset you. We are just surprised. It's been so many years since Dad died. We thought all legal matters were closed. You thought, said Arthur, opening his manila folder, that your father was a simple man, just another worker. But your father was much smarter than you gave him credit for. He took out some documents and put them on the table. They were copies of old bank statements, investment certificates, papers with official seals. Your father made modest but smart investments during the years he was alive. Small amounts in stocks, bonds, mutual funds. Nothing spectacular at first. But over time and with compound interest, that money grew, and kept growing. Jessica reached out to take the documents, but Arthur was faster and pulled them away. These documents are confidential. Only Mrs. Eleanor has the right to view them in full. We are his children, screamed Jessica, completely losing her composure. We have a right to know. No, I replied with glacial calm. You have no right. I am the widow. I am the legal beneficiary, and you are just my children, children who abandoned me. Richard slammed the table with the palm of his hand. This is crazy. We didn't abandon you. We simply had our lives, our jobs, our responsibilities. Responsibilities. My voice cracked slightly, not from weakness but from emotion held back for years. I had the responsibility of raising you alone since you were children. I worked until my hands bled. I gave up everything. And you couldn't spare 5 minutes to call me on my birthday. Ashley let out a sarcastic laugh. Oh, please, Eleanor, don't play the martyr. You did what any mother does. You raised your kids. Nobody asked you to be a suffering saint. I felt rage explode in my chest. I stood up from the chair abruptly. Nobody asked me? You were helpless children. Your father had just died. What did you want me to do? Abandon you in an orphanage? Richard also stood up, pointing his finger at me. Nobody is attacking you, Mom, but you can't use the past as emotional blackmail to control us now. If there is money, it has to be distributed fairly. Fairly. The word came out like spit. You want to talk about fairness? Was it fair that you left me alone year after year? Was it fair that you sat me in a corner at your wedding? Was it fair that you asked me to shut up at your work event, Jessica? As if I were an embarrassment? Jessica paled. She didn't expect me to remember that. She didn't expect me to have the guts to mention it. I was under a lot of stress that day. You always have excuses, I said bitterly. There is always a reason to treat me as if I were invisible. As if I didn't matter. Arthur, seeing that the situation was heating up too much, intervened with a professional voice. Gentlemen, ladies, I think we are deviating from the main topic. Let me explain something important. Your father's will included very specific clauses. The three of them stayed still, hanging on every word. One of those clauses established that, before a single penny was distributed, a condition had to be met. A test. What kind of test? Asked Richard with suspicion. A test of genuine love toward your mother. For a period of 1 year, without knowing of the existence of this will, you had to demonstrate that you cared for her. Regular visits, calls, attention. emotional and material support. The silence that followed was deafening. Ashley was the first to react, laughing with disbelief. That is absurd. How can love be measured? Who decides if they passed or failed the test? I do, replied Arthur. As executor, I had the responsibility of documenting your behavior toward your mother during that year. And let me tell you, it was pathetic. He took out another folder. This one contained a detailed log. Dates, notes, photographs. The trial period began 2 years ago, right after Eleanor's 69th birthday. And during that full year, Richard, you visited her exactly 3 times. 2 of those visits lasted less than 20 minutes. Jessica, you visited her twice. One of those times was to ask to borrow money. Jessica opened her mouth to protest, but Arthur raised his hand. I have the recordings from the security cameras of the building where Eleanor lives. I have phone records. I have everything documented. You failed. Miserably. Richard was red with anger. This is a trap. It is manipulation. You can't put conditions like that in a will. Yes, you can, replied Arthur coldly. And it was done, legally, with notarized certifications. Your father had every right to establish the conditions he wanted for his inheritance. Jessica began to cry. Crocodile tears, calculated tears. Mom, please. You can't believe we don't love you. We are your family. We made mistakes, yes, but everyone makes mistakes. You can't punish us like this. I looked at her. I saw her perfectly applied makeup running. I saw the performance, and I felt nothing. No compassion, no weakness. I am not punishing you, I said with a neutral voice. Your father set the rules, and you failed. Richard changed tactics. He approached me, his voice becoming soft, almost childlike. Mom, look at me. I'm your son, your little Richie. Remember when I was a boy and I slept hugging you when I had nightmares? Remember how much I loved you? For a second, just a second, my heart wavered. I remembered that boy with big eyes crying, asking me to hold him. But then I remembered the man who left me sitting in a corner on his wedding day, and the weakness disappeared. That boy died a long time ago, Richard. You killed him yourself with your indifference. Ashley finally exploded. This is emotional extortion. We are going to contest that will. We are going to take you to court. Arthur smiled, a cold smile that boded nothing good for them. Go ahead, try it. But let me tell you something in advance. That will is legally armored. And, furthermore, there is something else you still don't know. Arthur opened another folder. This one was thicker, heavier. And when he put it on the table, I saw Richard's face pale until it turned almost gray. You see, continued Arthur with a calm but lethal voice, during the last 6 months, since the trial period officially ended, you have been very busy doing interesting things, illegal things. I don't know what you're talking about, murmured Richard, but his voice was trembling. Arthur took out documents and spread them on the table as if they were poker cards. 4 months ago, Richard, you visited a notary named Stephen Miller, a notary with a dubious reputation, known for falsifying documents. You paid him $5,000 in cash to create a fake will. A will where your father supposedly named you as the main heir. The silence was so dense you could cut it with a knife. I have copies of the check. I have recordings from the security cameras of the notary's building. I have testimonies. Stephen is willing to testify in court in exchange for a reduction of charges, because it turns out the police already had him under investigation. Ashley jumped to her feet. That is a lie. Richard would never do something like that. Oh no? Arthur took out photographs. Clear photographs where Richard was seen entering and leaving an office. Photographs with date and time. Do you want to keep denying it? Richard slumped in his chair. His face was that of a trapped man. But Arthur wasn't finished. He turned toward Jessica. And you, miss, you hired a private investigator, a man named Frank Reynolds. You paid him $3,000 to investigate your mother's bank accounts, to find information you could use to your benefit. Jessica shook her head frantically. No, I just wanted to make sure Mom was okay, that nobody was scamming her. By hiring a private investigator without her consent, violating her privacy, that is also illegal, my dear. And I also have proof, emails, bank transfers. Reports from the investigator where it is clearly detailed that you were looking for information to claim the inheritance early. Jessica began to sob for real this time. It wasn't acting tears. It was pure panic. Ashley tried one last desperate play. You set a trap for us. You leaked the rumors about the money on purpose to see us react. Exactly, admitted Arthur without any shame. We wanted to see how far you were capable of going, and you exceeded our worst expectations. Forgery of documents, violation of privacy, attempted fraud. You are lucky I haven't called the police yet. I stood there looking at them. My children. The blood of my blood. And I felt a strange mixture of pain and liberation. Pain because it confirmed what I already knew. They never really loved me. Liberation, because I no longer had to pretend we were a family. Richard looked up. His eyes were red. Mom, please. I made a mistake. I was desperate. I have debts. The company where I work is cutting staff. I need that money. Need. My voice sounded harder than I intended. You live in a mansion. You have 3 luxury cars. Your wife spends more on a handbag than I spent on food for a month. Don't talk to me about need. Jessica literally crawled on her knees toward me. She clung to my hand. Mom, forgive me. Forgive me. I was a fool. I was selfish. But I love you. I swear I love you. Give me a chance to prove it to you. I withdrew my hand gently. You had a whole year to prove it to me. And you didn't do it. Arthur continued. Relentless. There is more. Much more. Because, you see, the figure of $10 million that was circulating in the rumors was incorrect. The 3 of them looked up simultaneously. Incorrect? Whispered Richard. Yes. Incorrect. The real inheritance, with all the investments, compound interest, and management that Mrs. Eleanor has been doing secretly during the last few years with my advice, amounts to $15 million. The room fell into absolute silence. 15 million. The figure floated in the air like a nuclear bomb. Eleanor was managing investments? Asked Ashley with disbelief. Her? The old lady who knew nothing about finance? Arthur laughed. A genuine laugh. The old lady you underestimated for decades turns out to have a brilliant financial mind. When I came to see her 3 years ago to inform her about the will, we began to work together. She learned, studied, made smart decisions, and multiplied the fortune. Everyone looked at me as if I were a stranger. And I guess I was. I was no longer the submissive and quiet mother they knew. During these 3 years, I said calmly, while you lived your perfect lives ignoring me, I was building my future. I learned about stocks, bonds, mutual funds. I read books. I took online courses. Arthur taught me everything he knew, and it turns out I am good at this. Richard was in total shock. But you never said anything. Why would I say anything to you? You only showed up when you needed something. Richard, remember when you came a year ago asking me to lend you $500 because you had a temporary cash flow problem? You never paid me back. Jessica, remember when you asked me for $1,000 for a medical emergency? Later, I saw the photos of your trip to Cancun on social media that same week. Both looked down, unable to hold my gaze. Arthur took out another document. This one had a red official seal. And now comes the most interesting part. Eleanor, do you want to tell them or should I? I took a deep breath. This was the moment of absolute truth. 2 months ago, I began with a firm voice. I made a decision about what to do with those $15 million. I thought a lot. I cried a lot. I asked myself if I was being too hard, if I should give you one last chance. I saw hope shine in Richard and Jessica's eyes, pathetic and desperate hope. But then I remembered my 69th birthday. I remembered that night crying alone in my kitchen. I remembered every snub, every humiliation, every time you made me feel invisible. And I knew what I had to do. Mom, please, pleaded Jessica. We are your blood, your family. Family is built with actions, not blood, I replied. And you destroyed this family a long time ago. Arthur put the official document in front of them. This is Eleanor's new will, reviewed, certified, and completely legal. In the event of her passing, which we hope will be many, many years from now, The $15 million will be donated entirely to 3 charities. What? Richard's scream echoed through the room. 1/3 will go to a home for single mothers in vulnerable situations. Another third to a foundation that supports elderly people abandoned by their families. And the last third will be used to create an educational scholarship called the William Memorial Foundation for orphans who lost their parents. Ashley stood up, furious, pointing a trembling finger at me. You can't do this. You are a crazy, vengeful old woman. We are going to sue you. We are going to take you to court. We are going to prove that you are not in your right mind. Arthur stood up too, his voice cutting like a razor. Try it. Eleanor has passed psychological evaluations. She has medical certificates proving she is perfectly sane. She has testimonies from multiple professionals. And she has this. He took out a small USB drive and connected it to his laptop. He turned the screen toward them. On the screen appeared the image of my husband, young, alive, sitting in front of an old camera. Richard and Jessica froze. It had been more than 40 years since they had seen their father. If you are watching this, my husband said in the video, his voice clear and firm, it means my Eleanor had to confront you, my children. And probably I was right in my suspicions. Richard tried to stand up, but his legs didn't respond. He let himself fall back into the chair, eyes fixed on the screen. Richard, Jessica, I loved you from the moment you were born. But I also knew you. I watched you grow, and I saw things that worried me deeply. I saw selfishness. I saw coldness. I saw how you treated your mother when you thought I wasn't looking. My husband's voice cracked slightly in the video. I remember the day Richard, barely 10 years old, told me that when he was rich he wasn't going to spend money on unnecessary things. I asked him if taking care of his mother would be unnecessary. He shrugged his shoulders. A 10-year-old boy shrugging at the idea of taking care of the woman who gave him life. Jessica was sobbing, covering her face with her hands. I remember when Jessica told me that when she was famous, she would only surround herself with elegant people. I asked her if her mother wasn't elegant enough. She told me her mom was simple. She was 8 years old. 8 years old, and she already felt shame for the woman who worked day and night to give her everything. My husband leaned toward the camera, his eyes full of prophetic sadness. If you are watching this, it means my worst fears came true. It means you abandoned her, that you made her suffer, that you forgot everything she sacrificed. And I want you to know something. I don't blame you completely. Maybe I also failed as a father. Maybe I was too permissive. Maybe I didn't teach you enough about gratitude and love. He paused for a long time. Painful. But that doesn't excuse you. Because you had a whole life to change, to be better. And if you are here now, claiming money, fighting for an inheritance instead of simply loving your mother, then you don't deserve a single cent of what I worked for. The video stopped. The silence in the room was sepulchral. Arthur closed the laptop with a soft click. Your father recorded 6 more videos, all with the same message, all making it clear that you deserve nothing. And all are legally certified as part of the will. Richard had tears running down his cheeks. Real tears this time. Dad hated us, he whispered. No, I said, my voice softer now. He didn't hate you, he knew you, and that tormented him. Because he wanted to be wrong. He wanted to believe that you would take care of me. But his instinct told him the truth. Ashley, who had been quiet during the video, exploded again. This is psychological manipulation. A dead man controlling from the grave. It's sick. It is protection, I corrected firmly. Protection against children who only see their mother as a means to get money. Jessica crawled toward me again, this time with a visceral desperation. Mom, I beg you, forgive me. I will change. I swear I will change. I will come see you every day. I will call you every morning. I will do anything. But don't leave me with nothing. I have debts. I have problems. I need that money. There it is, I pointed out with sadness. Even now, asking for forgiveness, the only thing you care about is the money. You didn't say, I don't want to lose you, Mom. You didn't say, I'm sorry I hurt you. You said, I need that money. Richard stood up, his face transformed by rage. You know what, Mom? You're right. I want the money. I need it. I have worked hard all my life. I graduated with honors. I built a career. And what did I get? Stress, debts, constant pressure. That money should be mine by right. I am your son. Your blood. Your father also worked hard, I replied with an icy voice. And he did it to secure my future, not yours. You didn't work for this money. I did. I was left a widow with 2 children. I sacrificed everything. And this money is the result of those sacrifices and your father's smart decisions. Arthur added another devastating detail. And speaking of working hard, Richard, let me tell you something interesting. We investigated your finances, your terrible debts. Do you know what we discovered? That you earn $200,000 a year, and you spend it maintaining a lifestyle you cannot afford. A sports car worth $120,000. Vacations in Europe 3 times a year. Designer clothes, expensive restaurants. You don't have money problems. You have priority problems. Ashley intervened, defensive. We work to enjoy life. Not to live miserably like Eleanor in her decrepit little house. I looked at her, really looked at her, and in that moment, all the compassion left in me evaporated. My decrepit little house, I said slowly, is more honest than this mansion built on debt and appearances. My decrepit little house has a soul. It has history. It has the sweat of my honest work. What does this house have? Marble bought on credit? Furniture that impresses strangers but gives no happiness. I stood up. I had had enough. Arthur, I think we are done here. But Arthur raised a finger. Wait, there is still one more thing they must know. He took out another folder. How many folders did this man have? But this time, what he took out surprised even me. During my investigation over the last few months, I discovered something disturbing. Richard, you didn't just try to falsify your father's will. You also forged your mother's signature on bank documents. My blood froze. What? My voice came out as barely a whisper. 3 months ago, someone tried to access one of your husband's old accounts. A small account that remained inactive. They used documents with your signature, Eleanor. But the signature was fake. The bank detected it and reported the attempted fraud. I received the alert because I am the executor. I sat down again, dizzy. Richard had tried to steal from me. Not just fight for an inheritance, steal from me directly. The bank has security footage, continued Arthur. Richard went personally to 3 different branches trying to access that account, with forged documents. That is not just morally reprehensible, it is a federal crime. Richard was pale as a ghost. I just thought that, if the account was abandoned, you thought you could steal from your mother? I finished the sentence for him. That's what you thought? He didn't answer. He couldn't. The truth was too obvious. Jessica, seeing that her brother was completely sunk, tried one last strategy. Mom, it's okay. Richard made serious mistakes. Me too. But he is sick. He needs psychological help. He is under a lot of pressure. He can't go to jail. Please, he is your son. He is a thief, I said without emotion. And work pressure is no excuse to try to defraud your own mother. Arthur closed the folder with a dry snap. This is what is going to happen now. You have 2 options. Option 1. I agree not to file criminal charges for document forgery and fraud. In exchange, you sign a legal document waiving any claim, present or future, on Eleanor's inheritance. You never try to contact her for money ever again. You never bother her again. And option 2? Asked Richard with a defeated voice. Option 2. I file all charges. Fraud. Forgery. Attempted theft. Violation of privacy. And you go to jail. Richard and Jessica looked at each other. I saw the panic in their eyes. I saw how all their arrogance crumbled like a house of cards. Ashley paced from side to side, biting her nails, calculating options that didn't exist. You can't do this to us, murmured Richard, but his voice lacked conviction. We are family. The family, I said, standing up and looking him directly in the eyes, ended the day you decided I wasn't worth even 5 minutes of your time. The family died when you sat me in a corner at your wedding. When you asked me to shut up in public. When you pretended I didn't exist until you smelled money. Arthur put the documents on the table. You have 24 hours to decide. Sign this, or first thing tomorrow morning the criminal charges will be with the prosecutor's office. And believe me, with the evidence I have, you are going to spend years in prison." Jessica collapsed completely. She fell to her knees on the marble floor, sobbing uncontrollably. "I can't go to jail. I can't. My career would be over, my reputation, everything. Mom, please, I'll do anything, anything. Anything except love me genuinely when there was no money involved," I replied with a calm that surprised myself. "That is the truth you don't want to accept. You never cared about me. Only what I can give you matters." Richard approached me with slow steps. For a moment, I thought he would try to hug me, but he stopped 1.5 feet away, as if an invisible wall separated us. "Are you really going to do this?" he asked with a broken voice. "Are you really going to destroy your own children?" "I am not destroying you," I replied without blinking. "You destroyed yourselves. I am only letting you face the consequences of your actions." Ashley let out a hysterical laugh. "This makes you happy, right? Seeing us suffer. Seeing us begging. It makes you feel powerful after years of being a nobody." Her words were designed to hurt me, to make me feel guilty, but they didn't work anymore. "It doesn't make me happy," I said sincerely. "It breaks my heart, because it confirms that the children I raised, whom I fed, whom I protected, never really existed. They were just my fantasies. The reality is you people, cruel and greedy individuals who see your mother as an obstacle to getting money." Arthur checked his watch. "It's getting late. Eleanor, are you ready to leave?" I nodded. I took my purse. I took one last look at that elegant room, at those expensive pieces of furniture, at that life of empty appearances. "Wait," shouted Richard. "Okay, I'll sign. I'll sign whatever. Just don't put me in jail." Jessica nodded frantically. "Me too. I'll sign. I renounce everything. Just leave us alone." Arthur took out the documents and put them in front of them. "Read carefully. You are waiving any right to Eleanor's inheritance. You are agreeing not to contact her for financial reasons ever again. And you are acknowledging that any attempt to violate this agreement will result in immediate criminal charges." Richard took the pen with a trembling hand. "I'm signing." His signature was barely a shaky scrawl. Jessica did the same, crying while she wrote her name. Ashley looked at them with contempt. "You are weak," she spat at her husband and sister-in-law. "You should fight. You should hire lawyers. You should." "Should what?" I interrupted her. "Spend money you don't have on lawyers who can't win a lost cause? Please. You live on appearances. You have no real savings. Everything is credit. Everything is a facade." Arthur put the signed documents in his briefcase. "Perfect. These documents will be legally recorded tomorrow. And now, Eleanor and I are leaving." I walked toward the door. Every step felt liberating, as if with every footfall I left behind years of humiliation and pain. But before leaving, I stopped. I turned toward them. "I want you to know something. During all these years of loneliness, while you lived your perfect lives, I thought about you every day. I wondered if you were okay, if you were happy, if you needed anything. Because that is how a mother's love works. It is unconditional. It is eternal. Even when it hurts." My voice cracked slightly, but I continued. "But you never thought of me that way, did you? You never wondered if I was okay, if I felt lonely, if I needed help. You only thought of me when you needed something. And now that I finally have something valuable, you appear like vultures." Richard opened his mouth to say something, but I stopped him with a gesture. "I don't want more excuses. I don't want more empty promises. The only thing I want is for you to understand this. You had a mother who loved you more than her own life, and you lost her. Not because of her death. You lost her because of your indifference. And that is something you will have to live with for the rest of your lives." I walked out of that mansion with my head held high. Arthur walked beside me. When we reached the car, I collapsed. I cried. Not from sadness, not from regret. I cried from liberation. I cried because finally, after so many years, I had defended myself. I had spoken my truth. I had regained my dignity. Arthur waited patiently until my tears dried. "Are you okay?" he asked tenderly. "I am better than ever," I replied, wiping my eyes. "For the first time in decades, I am fine." As we drove away from that house, I looked in the rearview mirror. I saw Richard and Jessica standing in the doorway, small and pathetic figures. And I didn't feel hate, just a deep sadness for what could have been, and never was. "And now what?" asked Arthur as he drove. I smiled. A real smile. Genuine. Now I start living. For real. During the following weeks, everything changed. Arthur helped me put all legal matters in order. The documents Richard and Jessica signed were officially recorded. They couldn't touch a penny of my money. They couldn't claim anything. And if they tried to approach me for financial reasons, they would face immediate legal consequences. I hired an accountant, a financial advisor, professional people who treated me with respect, who valued my intelligence, who taught me how to make those $15 million work for me and for the causes I cared about. I sold my little house, the house where I raised my children, the house full of sweet and bitter memories. I got a good price for it. And with that money, plus a part of my inheritance, I bought a beautiful apartment in the city center. 2 bedrooms, balcony with a view, modern kitchen, bathroom with a whirlpool tub, everything I never allowed myself to have. I enrolled in painting classes, something I always wanted to do but never had time for. I discovered I had talent. My paintings started to decorate the walls of my new home. I traveled. For the first time in my life, I got on a plane. I went to Paris. I saw the Eiffel Tower lit up at night and cried with emotion. I went to Rome. I walked through ancient streets full of history. I went to Barcelona. I tasted delicious food. I met wonderful people. And in every city, in every new experience, I felt how the woman I was for 70 years transformed into someone completely different. Someone free, someone happy. 6 months after that devastating lunch at Richard's mansion, my life was completely different, but the true transformation was yet to come. Arthur called me one morning in March. "Eleanor, I need you to come to my office. There is something important we must discuss about the foundation." The foundation, my most ambitious project. I had decided to use $5 million to create the William Memorial Foundation, dedicated to helping elderly people abandoned by their families, a shelter. A place where people like me could find dignity, respect, and community. When I arrived at Arthur's office, I found a surprise. There was another woman there, older than me, maybe about 75 years old, with perfectly pulled back white hair and eyes full of deep wisdom. "Eleanor, this is Margaret," Arthur introduced. "She is a social worker with 40 years of experience helping seniors, and she has a proposal that I think will interest you." Margaret shook my hand firmly. "It is an honor to meet you. Eleanor, Arthur told me your story, and I want to help you make this foundation something extraordinary." Over the next 3 hours, Margaret presented me with a detailed plan, not just a shelter, but a comprehensive center, with dignified housing for the elderly, with educational programs, with art and culture workshops, with free legal advice for seniors facing family abuse, with psychological therapy, with community activities. "I want it to be a place where people regain their self-worth," Margaret explained with passion, "where they understand that their life is not over, that they still have much to offer the world." I was moved to tears. It was exactly what I had dreamed of, but multiplied by 1,000. "How much would it cost to make this a reality?" I asked. Arthur reviewed the numbers. "With $5 million we can start strong. Buy a building, renovate it, hire professional staff, establish programs, and with the right investments, the foundation could be self-sustaining in 3 years." "Let's do it," I said without hesitating a second. And so began the most important project of my life. We bought an old building in a central neighborhood. It was a good size, but abandoned. For 6 months, a team of architects and builders transformed it into something beautiful. Individual apartments with private baths, spacious and bright common rooms, a rooftop garden, a library, a community dining room, everything designed thinking of the comfort and dignity of the residents. I hired Margaret as director. She formed an incredible team: nurses, social workers, psychologists, art teachers, yoga instructors, chefs, cleaning staff, people who treated the elderly with genuine respect. Meanwhile, my story began to leak to the press. I don't know exactly how, Maybe someone who worked in the foundation building talked to a journalist. Maybe it was Jessica or Richard trying to victimize themselves publicly. The case is that one day I received a call from a reporter at the city's most important newspaper. "Mrs. Eleanor, we would like to do an article about you and your foundation, about how a woman who was abandoned by her children is now helping others in the same situation." At first I refused. I didn't want publicity. I didn't want this to be about me. But Arthur convinced me. "Think about it, Eleanor. Your story can inspire others. It can make more people donate to the foundation. It can help seniors who are suffering realize they are not alone." I accepted. The journalist came to my apartment. He did a long interview. I told him everything. My life of sacrifices, my children's abandonment, my husband's will, the confrontation, the decision to use the money to help others. The article was published a week later. On the front page, with a photo of me smiling, the headline read, "From Abandoned Mother to Benefactor, the inspiring story of Eleanor and her $5 million foundation." The article went viral. In a matter of days, my story was everywhere. Social media, TV programs, radio. People stopped me on the street to thank me, to tell me their own stories of family abandonment, to tell me that I had given them hope. I received hundreds of donations for the foundation. From $5 from a student to $50,000 from a businessman who had also been abandoned by his children. The foundation grew faster than I ever imagined. But not everything was positive. 3 weeks after the article was published, I received a message from Jessica. "Mom, we need to talk. Please. I beg you." I didn't answer. She had signed an agreement. She wasn't supposed to contact me. The next day, she showed up at the door of my building. The doorman called me. "Mrs. Eleanor, there is a woman here who claims to be your daughter. She says it is urgent." I hesitated, but finally agreed to see her. I went down to the lobby, and there was Jessica. She looked terrible. Puffy eyes, wrinkled clothes, no makeup. She had lost weight. She looked older than she was. "Mom," she whispered when she saw me, "thank you for seeing me." "You have 5 minutes," I said with a neutral voice. "And you are violating the agreement you signed." I know, but I had to see you, I had to tell you." Her voice broke. "I saw the article, I saw your photo. You looked so happy, so radiant, and I realized I never saw you like that when you lived for us." I didn't answer. I just looked at her. "I realized we stole your life." She continued with tears running down her cheeks. "We stole your happiness, your youth, your chance to be yourself. And now that you are finally free, you are the woman you were always meant to be." Her words sounded sincere, but they didn't affect me like before. "Did you come just to tell me that?" I asked. "I came to ask for your forgiveness. For real. Not for the money. I know I'm never going to see a cent of that inheritance. And that's fine. I deserve it. But I needed you to know that I regret it. Deeply. Every snub, every humiliation. Every time I made you feel less than you are. And Richard, he says you ruined him. That because of you the whole family looks at him badly. That your article in the newspaper humiliated him publicly. Ashley left him. She said she didn't want to be married to the son of that woman who exposed everyone." I felt a pang, not of guilt, but of sadness for what could have been. "And you?" I asked. "How are you?" "I lost my job," she admitted. "When the article came out, my bosses recognized me. They asked me to resign because my presence damaged the company's image. I had to sell my condo. Now I live in a small place. I work as an assistant at a boutique. I earn barely enough to survive." She paused. "And you know what the worst part is? That all this made me understand how you lived for years. Working hard, without luxuries, without recognition. And you did it for us, for children who never valued it." She took a deep breath. "I didn't come to ask for money, Mom. Really. I just came to tell you that I am proud of you, of what you are doing with the foundation, of how you reinvented yourself, and to tell you that I regret, with all my heart, not being the daughter you deserved." For the first time in months, I felt some emotion toward Jessica. Not complete forgiveness, not instant reconciliation, but a small glimmer of hope that maybe, just maybe, suffering had truly changed her. "Jessica," I said softly. I appreciate you coming. And I appreciate your words. But I need time. A lot of time. To process everything, to decide if I want to rebuild any kind of relationship with you. She nodded, wiping her tears. I understand, and I respect that. I just wanted you to know the truth. She turned to leave. But before she reached the door, I called her. Jessica. She turned around. The foundation opens its doors next month. There will be a ceremony. If you want to come, as a guest, you can. Her eyes lit up with a mixture of surprise and gratitude. Really? Really? But only as a guest, not as family, not yet. The day of the foundation's inauguration dawned sunny and bright, as if the universe itself were celebrating with me. I woke up in my apartment at 6 in the morning. I put on an elegant violet dress I had bought especially for the occasion. I fixed my hair. I applied makeup carefully, and when I looked in the mirror, I saw a woman I didn't recognize. A strong woman, powerful, radiant, a woman who had gone through hell and come out the other side, turned into a diamond. At 10 in the morning, I arrived at the foundation building. There were balloons decorating the entrance, a crimson carpet, photographers, journalists, TV cameras. More than 200 people waited outside. Local politicians, business people who had donated, social workers, and most importantly, the first 30 residents of the foundation, 30 seniors who had been abandoned by their families and now had a dignified home. Margaret welcomed me with a strong hug. Are you ready to change the world, Eleanor? I was born ready, I replied with a smile. The ceremony began. A politician gave a speech about the importance of caring for our elders. Margaret spoke about the foundation's programs. And then it was my turn to speak. I went up to the small stage they had set up. I looked at the crowd, and I saw faces full of hope. I saw elderly people crying with emotion. I saw inspired young people. I saw Arthur in the front row, smiling with pride. And in the back row, almost hidden, I saw Jessica. She had come, alone, without Richard, without Ashley, just her. I took a deep breath and spoke. A year ago, I was an invisible woman, an abandoned mother who spent her 69th birthday completely alone, crying in her kitchen, wondering where she had failed in life. But today I am here, and I am not alone. I am surrounded by people who understand that the value of a human being does not decrease with age, who understand that our elders deserve respect, love, and dignity. My voice became stronger. This foundation was born from pain, from abandonment, from betrayal, but it was built with hope, with the certainty that we can create a better world, a world where no elderly person has to spend their last years feeling invisible or despicable. I paused, feeling emotion grow in my throat. My husband, who died more than 40 years ago, had the foresight to protect me, to ensure that I would have the resources to live with dignity, and I decided to use those resources not just for myself, but for all of you. For every person who ever felt abandoned, for every mother, every father, every grandparent who gave everything and received oblivion in return. Applause interrupted my speech. Tears ran down the faces of many in the audience. This foundation is more than a building. It is a movement. It is a declaration that we deserve to live our last years with joy, with purpose, with love, and I promise you that every penny of this foundation will be used to honor that promise. I finished my speech with the words I had rehearsed 1,000 times. To everyone watching this, I tell you, if you have elderly parents, call them today. Visit them. Tell them you love them. Don't wait until it is too late. And if you are older and feel lonely, know that you are not alone. There are communities like this waiting for you. There are people who value you. Your story is not over. A new chapter is just beginning. The crowd erupted in applause. People stood up. Some cried openly. I saw Jessica in the back row, clapping with tears running down her face. After the ceremony, while I greeted the guests and met the residents, Jessica approached timidly. "Mom, your speech was beautiful," she said with a soft voice. "Thank you for coming," I replied sincerely. Could I maybe visit you sometime? No agenda, asking for nothing, just to have coffee and talk." I looked her in the eyes. I saw something different there. Humility. Genuine regret. I don't know if it was real or if it was another performance. But I decided to give her a chance. A small one. Controlled. Call me in 2 weeks. We'll see. Her face lit up. Thank you, Mom. Thank you. She left. And I went back to my new life. The following months were a whirlwind. The foundation prospered beyond my dreams. The initial 30 residents became 50. Then 70. We had to expand. We bought the building next door. The programs were incredible. The art classes had a waiting list. The writing workshops helped residents document their life stories. The legal aid program helped dozens of seniors recover properties stolen by abusive relatives. Group therapy created a support community where people healed their emotional wounds. I wrote a book. It is never too late. The story of a mother who reclaimed her life at 70. 1. It became a bestseller. The profits went directly to the foundation. I was invited to TV shows, to conferences. Universities asked me to give talks on dignified aging and family abuse. I became, unintentionally, a symbol. A symbol that life doesn't end when your children abandon you, that you can reinvent yourself at any age. That pain can be transformed into purpose. Jessica kept her word. She called me every 2 weeks. Our conversations were short at first, awkward. But slowly, very slowly, we started to rebuild something. Not the mother-daughter relationship we had before. That was broken forever. But something new. Something based on honesty and mutual respect. Richard never reached out. I heard through third parties that he remained bitter, that he blamed everyone but himself, that he lived a mediocre life full of resentment. And although it hurt me, I understood that some people never change. And that was okay. I couldn't save him. I could only save myself. On my 73rd birthday, 2 years after that fateful lunch at Richard's mansion, the foundation organized a surprise party for me. 100 people, residents, staff, donors, new friends I had made in this stage of my life. There was cake, music, laughter, genuine hugs. And when I blew out the candles, surrounded by people who really loved me, I realized something. I had won. Not because I had money. Not because I had punished my children. I had won because I reclaimed my life, because I transformed my pain into something beautiful, because I proved that it is never too late to start over. That night, alone in my apartment, I looked at the stars from my balcony. I thought of my husband, how his love transcended death, how he protected me, even 40 years after leaving. We did it, my love, I whispered to the sky. I took your gift and turned it into something that will help thousands. Thank you for believing in me when I didn't even believe in myself. I felt peace. Complete. Total. My story is not just about an inheritance or revenge. It is about regaining your dignity, about understanding that your value does not depend on how others treat you, about getting up after being trampled on and building something beautiful with the broken pieces of your life. I am 73 years old. And finally, for the first time in decades, I am happy, genuinely happy. And you, who are watching or reading this, have you lived a similar injustice? Have you been abandoned by those who swore to love you? I want you to know something. You are not alone. Your story is not over. There is still time to write a different ending, an ending where you are the hero, where you reclaim your power, where you transform pain into purpose. It is never too late. Never.